Hi, y'all. Welcome back to Get Naked with Mary. Thanks for all who have reached out, liked, subscribed, shared the videos. I appreciate that and hope that y'all are having a great day. I hope that you had a good Easter, Ramadan, Passover, any of that if you happen to celebrate any of that. For me, it kind of brought up some stuff that I wasn't expecting. I have not been a practicing anything for a while now, and I don't know what it was about this holiday. Maybe it was the fact that the pseudo grandfather passed away recently, or maybe it's just that I am more aware of religious trauma now, and that actually has a name. Because I went for a long time thinking, even though my experience with religion was horrendous, I, for a long time, thought that just because my experience was bad, that, that maybe it was rare. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. It really has not been that long. It's been a relatively short period of time that I've even known about the concept of religious trauma. And since then, I kind of dabbled in it looking for, information or whatever, what exactly that meant. And then, of course, it coincided with my journey, with my healing journey, and the uncovered memories and all of that. But anyway, I saw something on, I think it was Instagram the other day, that was describing this girl's experience. She was 17, involved in a very, very conservative church, and she got pregnant. And I'm sure you could imagine the reaction of the people who ran the church, and it was not great. It was not great. And it made me start thinking about my own experience. I was pregnant at 18, engaged at 18. Actually, we were engaged before I got married. Not that obviously we were engaged before I got married. We were engaged before I got pregnant. Not that matters. But then I was pregnant before I got married. And right around the same time, my dad was diagnosed with lymphoma. And being raised in the religion that I was raised in, we didn't believe in heaven for everyone. It was more of a paradise on earth, and you had to jump through certain hoops and knock on doors and other things like that in order to gain entrance into paradise, which again would be on earth. And so not only was I dealing with, all the usual stuff that an 18-year-old deals with, then I got pregnant, and then my dad, who, for his faults, was an amazing, amazing man, and thank God that, I had him. Even with all those faults, because nobody's perfect. That's a whole other subject. But anyway, I know I say that a lot, right? But I was probably 6 months pregnant, because I was very well pregnant at this point, and already married. And I got called before the elders. I got an official letter telling me that I want to say requested my presence, requested an appearance, but it was not a request. It was not a request. And so, first of all, I was kind of confused by this because, again, I was already married. And I wasn't being called before the congregation that I normally went to. I was called before the elders of a different congregation. So I didn't really even know these people. So the whole thing was very confusing, but I went because at this point in time I was still, trying to, even though I had a bleep it personality and attitude, I loved my dad, and I really wanted to be not what he expected me to be, but I wanted to make him proud. And I wanted to do what I thought was right. And even though I wasn't real convinced of a lot of things this religion was teaching, I kind of had the mindset that I would err on the side of caution. That even if I didn't believe it, I would practice it because, what harm could it do, right? So, if I'm wrong and I do what's expected of me, then I end up in paradise. And if I'm right, then, at least my dad was proud of me or whatever. I know it's a whole lot to unpack there, but that's, again, another subject. But anyway, so I get this letter, and I go in. I'm not allowed to bring anyone with me. It was very formal. I walked in, and again, I'm pretty pregnant. I'm probably 6.5, maybe 7 months pregnant. And just as a little side note, I am sick. I am completely nauseous and puking the entire time that I'm pregnant. Like real sick the entire time. I even puked in labor. Like sick. And so I have to drag my butt out of bed and not just show up, but I have to have a good attitude, and I have to be dressed, which was, first of all, I've never really been someone who does a lot of makeup, or, I wash my hair and I brush it, like it's, I've never really, and there's nothing wrong with that if you do. It just has never really been something that I've had time for. And so I have to put all of this effort in, which irritated me before I even walked in the door. But then I walk in there, and there are these 3 men who, again, I really didn't know. And they have me sit at this table, or I'm sorry, they're sitting at this table. There are 3 of them, and they're, it's very official. And they're sitting together at this table. And then in front of the table, a respectable distance back, is a chair. And I'm not even kidding you when I say it felt like a kid's chair. It wasn't. It really wasn't. But it was not as tall as their chairs or their table. And it was very much meant to put me in my place, like from the get-go. So that did not go over well. But, besides the fact that I'm extremely pregnant, I don't understand why I'm being called in there in the first place. And, I'm sick and I'm having to drag myself in there all made up. I'm completely uncomfortable, which of course is exactly what they wanted. But then they proceed to question me. And not just questions. These were questions about my sex life. And again, I'm 18. I might have been 19 at the time, but I'm still a kid. I'm still a teenager. And they are questioning me about not just my sex life, but positions and quantity and how many people have I been with and what kinds of things I do and what kinds of things I've had done to me, and like just horrible, intimidating, meant to be humiliating and embarrassing questions. Now, keep in mind, I want to be a sex coach. We've talked about that. I am not one to shy away from a conversation about sex. But this was different. This was meant to be humiliating. This was meant to be them putting me in my place. This was meant to be them showing me who was in control. And it definitely was not me in this situation, according to them. And this went on for, I don't know, an hour? Maybe an hour and a half? Literally, question after question after question. I wasn't allowed to get up and use the bathroom. I wasn't allowed to have water. Like it was, and sprinkled in there, in between these questions, especially if I got an attitude, because I got an attitude. They would say things like, I'm sure your father is completely embarrassed of you. You have really let your father down. It's gonna be really sad if not just you, but the child that you're carrying, if you both die and don't meet your father in the paradise because you couldn't keep your legs closed, or things like that, like horrible things. And I mean, I am not a shy person by any means. And again, I can talk about almost anything, clearly. But this was not a conversation at all. This was an interrogation. It literally was an interrogation. And that post that I saw the other day really made me start thinking about that. And it's, of course that was traumatic. And I would have handled it totally different now, but of course they wouldn't call me in now because, I'm a lost cause. But I spent some time thinking about that, and the fact that this is still going on, it just blows my mind. And it's unacceptable. And I saw that post the other day, and it made me angry. Of course, it made me extremely angry. And then I thought about the girl in the post and how horrified she must be. And then I started thinking about all of y'all and other people that have been through this. And, enough is enough. Like I don't begrudge people who believe in God. I don't begrudge people who have a religion as part of their community. I mean, because let's face it, life is tough. And under the best of circumstances, it's still tough. It can still be challenging, right? So I don't have a problem with religion or, again, people following whatever they feel is God's law or whatever. I have a problem when the abuse of power starts. And I just wanted to reach out to y'all and tell you a little bit about my story and kind of check on y'all and see if any of you have been through this. And I will tell you that while I'm no longer welcome in the congregation, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, clearly. And I don't know that, well, maybe we'll talk about God another time. But just for any of y'all that have been through this or anything like this, I just, again, wanted you to know that you're not alone. And it's taken a long time for me to handle that and deal with that. And and that's not even going into all the other, the sexual abuse and all of the other things, but just that one incident was traumatic enough. And I think it's funny that I wasn't baptized. I was never baptized in that religion, but they never called in my husband. He was also not baptized. I mean, he hadn't been a member as long as me, but he was still a member. He was still going when I got pregnant, but they didn't call him in. Just me. Yeah, it was not it was not a good day. But some of the things that I have done to get through that was, well, truthfully, I didn't deal with it for a long time. I I pushed it down and I focused on other things. And so maybe that's also another reason why it came up the other day, because like I said, I hadn't really heard the term religious trauma until maybe a year ago. And so it's definitely something that is still a little raw and a little fresh, wound wise. So, it's just part of this journey. It's just part of this journey. But this video is getting a little long, so I'm going to go. But again, thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing. And thanks for coming back and sharing in this journey with me. And again, if you have any topics that you'd like to talk about, or have any experiences that you'd like to share or whatever, just let me know. Feel free to reach out. And I hope that y'all are having a wonderful day.